Lowry searching. Looking. Finds Strus back to Lowry. There it is, three-pointer. Won't go. Rebound, Caldwell Pope. They're not going to foul. The Heat will let it play out. It's over. At last, the long wait is over. After 47 years, the Denver Nuggets can finally call themselves NBA champions.
At the start of the 2022-23 season, not many people pegged a team like the Denver Nuggets to win the championship. Most members of the media, analysts, as well as fans in general were talking mostly about teams like the Celtics, the defending champion Warriors, the Bucks, even the Nets, the Clippers, and the Suns were viewed as being title contenders more so than the Nuggets. Preseason Vegas odds had the Nuggets 9th to win the championship, even behind teams like the Sixers and the Heat. And while most knew the Nuggets had the best player in the world in Nikola Jokic coming off consecutive MVPs, there were questions around the health of Jamal Murray, Michael Porter Jr., and while the Nuggets had kind of an embarrassing start to their season and losing to the Utah Jazz, getting blown out in that very first game, from that point on, you knew right away this team was going to be a force to reckon with and be one of the best teams vying for a championship ring. Their first in franchise history. And not only did they go on to finish with the best record in the Western Conference, they would go on to blow through the competition in dominating fashion in the playoffs, marking one of the most historic runs on their way to their first title. Just how crazy of a run was it? Well, let's talk about it. If you're new to the channel and you enjoy this type of content, then be sure to subscribe, and in return, I'll be providing more NBA content like this. Now, the Denver Nuggets going into the playoffs, despite having the number 1 seed, finishing the regular season with 53 wins, despite being fully healthy, and despite Jokic having one of the greatest individual regular season performances we have ever seen, even though he didn't win the MVP, which is another topic for a different day. Despite all of that, the Nuggets were not the clear favorite to win the championship. They weren't even the favorite to come out of the West. No, because of the Suns and their trade for Kevin Durant, and everyone's still clinging on to this idea that the Warriors are untouchable, most analysts had written off the Nuggets as a team that, sure, would make some noise, but realistically, they weren't going to be coming out of the West, let alone winning an NBA title. And throughout that time, even after the Nuggets started running through their competition, the media was still not giving the Nuggets their due, still talking about how they weren't interesting to write about, how they weren't box office, boring for the league, not enough headlines, critiquing Jokic as if he wasn't worthy of being a superstar that was leading this team to a championship. Not all, but some. And throughout all of that, the Nuggets, unfazed by what was being said about them, just kept competing and continued to run through the league. The Nuggets would go on to finish off the Wolves in 5 games, the Suns in 6. They would sweep the LA Lakers and then take out the Heat in 5 games. Aside from the all-time great teams like the 90s Bulls and more recently the Warriors, we haven't seen a team go on a playoff run this dominant and so convincing where you simply cannot say this was a fluke or luck in running into teams with injuries. In fact, if you look at all the playoff series that they had, every Western Conference team, maybe with the exception of the Wolves who didn't have Jaden McDaniels, and also the Suns without Chris Paul, all of the teams that they win against, their core and their best players were fully healthy. The Lakers had their star players, and coming off an impressive series and beating the Warriors in 7 games, they would go on to wipe the floor of them in the Western Conference Finals. The Suns, sure, again, no Chris Paul, but they still had their best players in Kevin Durant and Devin Booker, exposing the Suns' holes on their offense with their limited outside shooting despite having 2 elite scorers. And then, of course, the Miami Heat, no Tyler Hero, but you could argue Hero has actually been holding the Heat back. But the Heat, who have been on this incredible run after nearly getting eliminated by the Bulls in the final play-in game, go on a tear to head to the finals as the 8th seed, taking out the Milwaukee Bucks in 5 games. The Heat come into the finals looking to make history of being the first 8 seed to win a championship and riding that momentum to win their first title since 2013. The Nuggets, like they did with all the other teams they faced, exposing their weaknesses to perfection, not allowing the Heat to get any easy looks at the rim, taking away their ability to operate in the mid-range, and forcing the Heat, who were the best three-point shooting team in the playoffs by percentage, forcing them to take bad shots and limiting their overall offense to where the Heat only averaged 96 points per game in the finals, the lowest point per game total we have seen in the NBA by any team since the Cavs in 2015 when they lost to the Warriors without Kyrie Irving and Kevin Love. And in an NBA today where offense has been continuing to push new boundaries with new records being set every season. The Nuggets, who aren't even known for their defense, a team that finished 15th in the league in defense, shut down not just the Miami Heat, but also the Lakers, the Wolves, and the Suns, who were one of the better offensive teams in the league after the trade deadline when they landed Kevin Durant. Get this, the Nuggets had the highest point differential in the postseason in the last decade of the playoffs at plus 8.3. The team behind them, the Boston Celtics, at 3.3. Now, some will say, yeah, they won the championship, great story. They won their first title in franchise history, but this team was boring. A mid-market team, an uncharacteristic superstar who cares more about going back to his farm in Serbia than celebrating an NBA title. This isn't a good look for the league. I ask you though, what exactly is good for the league? Sure, we all like drama, we all like the rivalries of teams like the Lakers and the Celtics, we all like seeing the biggest stars on the biggest stage battling it out, but if you want to see pure basketball played at its finest, no team does it better than the Nuggets, a team that is so well coached, incredibly prepared for any of their opponents, and a team that is void of egos and plays unselfish basketball. Ball movement, player movement, execution on offense, knowing how to pick apart their opponent and expose their weaknesses. Sure, maybe it's not for everyone, but I personally just enjoy watching good team basketball. In an era where heavy isolation basketball is glorified and the game is focused on superstars dominating the ball and controlling the flow of the offense, the Nuggets are bringing us back to how the game should be played. A team sport that benefits from the contributions of all of its players who know their roles and are focused on winning and doing what's best for the team rather than for their own benefit. It's a very rare thing to see these days. And then the Nuggets are case in point that you don't need a superstar who's going to put over 30 points per game and taking half of the total team's shot attempts, or that you need a superstar to just be hoisting up threes all game to be effective on offense. No, you need players that are well-rounded on offense, that defer to others, sacrificing on the court, setting up and creating plays for others, getting the most out of your teammates, and also just playing smart team basketball, never losing sight, never losing focus, not letting egos get in the way, and realizing the one goal, the eye on the prize, winning a championship. It took the Denver Nuggets nearly 50 years to finally make their championship hopes a reality. A team that had never been to the finals until this season can now call themselves NBA champions. NBA champions that plowed through their competition on their way to the title by taking us back to true, good old-fashioned team basketball. I'll have a video out focusing on Nikola Jokic and his rise to superstardom and also his insane season on the way to his first NBA title and what it means to his legacy. Be on the lookout for that. As always, be sure to subscribe, and I'll see you in the next one.